My name is Dr. Jacob Smith. I am a part-time plumber, full-time rodeo clown, and intermittent Prince of the Ivory Coast.
Those emails are from you?
Yeah, right. He's our own troll. He's been trolling us. Congratulations, you have successfully found the Axe and Scalpel podcast. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm Johnny V, joined by Dr. Jacob Smith, joined by Dr. Rick Rapp. As usual, it is a Monday. Boys, how did you spend your weekends?
Well, I'll go first. Saturday, man, really cool. So got it just a date day with my wife for the most part. Went to Toad House here locally. Big props to them. Amazing coffee and just snacks. Hung out there, and then went with some friends down to Eau Claire and went to. Have you ever done duck pin bowling?
Never even heard of it.
Oh, it's pretty cool. We'll talk about it sometime. At the Reboot Social. That was a fun thing. They have arcade too. And then we went to a concert, a Christian concert, the Rend Collective.
Oh, all right.
Think Christian Mumford and Son.
I don't think
Irish rock. I mean, they put on a great show.
I don't think I can listen to you till you explain to me what this duck bowling is. Quick. Tell me now. Just quick. What is it?
Duck pin bowling. So the lane is only like 20 some feet long. You don't have to wear special shoes. The ball is just a 5-pound round ball, no holes. There's 10 pins, but they're short and squat. They look like ducks. And they're all attached by a rope so that they can quick pick them up and stuff. You get 3 rolls per frame. And it's just fun. Like, you're not going to hurt yourself. They got nice seats. You know, you get food, you get your beverage of choice. And it goes fast. You pay by the hour. And so, you know, it's like $6 per person. For an hour. So it was like $48 for the 4 of us to do 2 hours there. And we had, amazing food. Yes, this is like the pickleball. As pickleball is to tennis, duck pin bowling is to bowling.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
They have a really good one up in Duluth too. So, but
Interesting.
Have you ever tried that, Jacob?
I have not. tried. I've been duck hunting. It's not the same thing, though, I'm assuming, right?
Oh, and then Sunday, church at home online with the family because we were all super tired after the concert and just hung out, did a bunch of podcast editing. Yeah, so.
No, we'll keep you busy, especially me. I'm sure that you got a special button for me.
Johnny, you have got the least amount of editing needed.
Never thought you were a liar, Rick.
Well, you know. I noticed that without me on the episode, there was a lot less ums and uhs.
Well, Johnny, what was your weekend like, my friend?
When I could, I watched about as much March Madness as possible.
Okay.
Watched a lot of those games. Games were good.
That's got me completely.
Not as many buzzer beaters as you'd like, but there is a couple. And, Wisconsin, I don't know if you found out what happened, but they were losing by like 9 points with about 2 minutes left. They had a chance to tie it at the very end, but it didn't go the way. They made a very exciting exit out of the tournament. But aside from that, games have been good. Sweet 16 coming up. It's a great time of year, especially for sports. You got college basketball, hockey. Playoffs aren't too far away, so every game matters with them. And if you want to take a nap or whatever, go ahead and tune on the NBA if you want. Because college basketball and hockey, those are the ways to go right now.
Yep. UW women national champion hockey.
Yeah.
University of Wisconsin beat the Ohio State.
They are kind of the traditional powerhouse in the world of women's hockey. Got to give those guys credit, man. They've got a good thing going for many, many years.
Frozen Four's coming up too. I believe the Gophers are in it. Minnesota State's in it.
Yeah, the NCAA, the tournament. So it's the final 16 essentially is going to be starting here soon.
So that's what I thought. Something was weird about that.
State is in it. Yeah, it's not quite as big as the basketball tournament. There's only 16 teams.
There's some weird little school that starts with B in the tournament.
Bentley.
Like,
yeah, East Coast school, I think. So hopefully those guys it's exciting when a team like that makes a run too. So we'll see.
How about you, Mr. Smith?
Well, I had a take it easy weekend, partly traumatizing. My oldest
You didn't set anything
daughter.
on fire?
No, I didn't set anything on fire this time, so it's more boring, but traumatizing nonetheless. My oldest daughter, man, she's growing up. She's 17 years old now, and she was prom dress shopping this weekend for her junior prom already with her mother. So it made me feel like a real old guy.
Yeah.
So how do you combat that when you're starting to feel like a real old guy? Is you got to do something masculine. So I watched Saving Private Ryan and had a Sam Adams.
All right.
Yeah, not a very active weekend, but yeah, my Sam Adams made me feel temporarily better about myself.
Kind of the masculine sort of microbrew crap.
Yeah, I mean it's named after kind of a founding fathers figure, or a revolutionary figure. So.
What's your opinion on the Sam Adams Oktoberfest?
I like it. Yeah, I'm good with pretty much anything those guys make. To be honest with you, I think I've kind of always been a connoisseur of their beers, and but
I liked it back in the day when I could drink.
Yeah, understandable.
I liked the Sam Adams. I liked the Fat Tire when it was just my little local thing in northern Colorado, when I was 21, before they went national and sold out.
Well, gentlemen, I think we got to get to some discussion here in the last week. We haven't seen each other in full in like a week here, and I pulled some interesting headlines for today's episodes, and I'd like to get your guys' thoughts. So my question would be starting to you, Johnny, if you could be an animal, sir, in today's day and age when you can be anything you want.
Start with me? All right.
Because this just got into the mainstream, man.
Come out of your shell, Johnny.
This just got into the mainstream.
Come out of your shell.
Does
it have to be a real animal, or could it be like a silver screen somebody made up?
Well, I guess it could be anything, man. But
this is your truth, Johnny. Live it.
But this week, headline, and I've double checked this. This isn't just the Fox News guys going crazy, but the headline for them at least was "They Them Turtle." An Oregon Mental Health Advisory Board includes a member who identifies as the terrapin species.
Sounds
it's
like
real,
this,
man.
I bet this guy's got a punctuality problem.
No, you mentioned it. The pronouns.
They, them, or turtle.
Yeah.
So you guys ever see what's a Will Ferrell movie? Step Brothers.
Yes.
You see Step Brothers? All right. So there's a classic scene have you seen Step Brothers?
Yeah.
So a classic scene at the end when the dad is talking to the boys and they're playing their music on Catalina Island, right? Catalina wine mixer. And dad admits that back in his day, man, he wanted to be a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Right. And 10 years ago or 15 years ago, whenever that movie came out, we all kind of laughed at that, thought that was hilarious. But man, we have our first official reptile.
It has begun.
It
has.
And I thought at the
begun.
time, being a T-Rex would be pretty sweet, and now this person has broken the barrier, man.
Yeah, I mean, we saw for all that time about like the cats and the kids identifying as cats and the whole statement about litter boxes in the school and stuff. And, and we joke a little bit, as far as an animal that I would want to be, grizzly bear.
Yeah. With a massive amount of strength.
I've been called a lot of animals.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. But so I would probably go with that. I want something that's like big and fearsome, but actually pretty, mellow and chill. And I think a lot of the bears are. I wouldn't go so far as lion that just lays around all day. The male lions, I guess you could. I guess
it'd be tough to get over the whole eating rotten carcasses thing. I guess fresh kills, I'd be okay with that. Yeah, but the rotten stuff,
steak and. But I guess you could identify as a lioness where all the rules are off.
Johnny?
I'll go patriotic.
Okay.
What's wrong with being an eagle?
Okay.
I wouldn't mind being an eagle. I'm flying. Most things are kind of scared of me. And I got some
except for those little blackbirds that when you go after their nest.
I figured maybe
that's when the murder's after you, right?
Yes. I figured maybe one of you guys would want to go like bunny rabbit for breeding efficiency purposes. No?
Is he calling us deviants subtly?
Oh no! That's you think about that. Well, logical, right? Well,
How about you?
the truth is, well,
Yeah, how
we'll
about you,
get
Jay?
there.
Gazelle,
We'll
maybe?
get there. Well, I would,
And I think
you know,
I'll
well,
talk about the
Yes.
the Step
issue
Brothers
thing.
guy. I mean, T-Rex, he stole that from me. I was a dinosaur aficionado when I was a kid, maybe Velociraptor, but no, this person, JD Holt, who also goes by JD Terrapin on Facebook, is one of roughly 24 consumers on the OHA, I assume that's Oregon Health Association, maybe, Consumer Advisory Council. The council, established by an administrative statute, is appointed by the OHA director. So this is like a real thing, man.
The Oregon Health Administration.
Yeah. And so Holt said in a December 20th virtual OCAC meeting, Gender Wiki, a website that documents the list of non-binary genders, describes turtle gender, or sometimes called tortoise gender, as a xenogender identity in which one feels a gendered connection to turtles.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I don't know what to say.
Come on now.
Do you guys
I mean-
consider yourselves punctual?
I am on time.
Yeah.
This seems like something you do if you, I don't know how much effort this person put into not being punctual, but if you're going to identify as a turtle, I bet this person has a tendency to be late for a lot of stuff.
Well, I tell you what, I thought this has got to be Fox News or conservative outlets, maybe exaggerating things a little bit. And so I tried to, this is Axe and Scalpel. We want to dissect the issues here a little bit. And so I tried to find another source, maybe something that is a little less, of a conservative bent and biased. Yeah. So I came across here a website. I think this is like the Oregonian or something like that. And they had an article about this. And man, I don't think they did. They didn't do this any justice. It just made it sound crazier. So it says, they're saying that basically what Fox News is reporting isn't all it's cracked up to be, that maybe there's some confusion here. But what this Oregon outlet says, it says, but the use of pronouns such as turtle does not necessarily mean a person's gender aligns with the animal. And you think, okay, right, that's reasonable. But then it goes on to say, among some people, though, the pronoun may signify a wholesale rejection of gender as a concept. Among people who identify as neurodiverse, it may signal an affinity with traits associated with an animal, for example, a turtle. So that they tried to kind of
Neodiverse.
normalize that there a little.
That was
bit,
the word.
but
I was like, is neodiverse, xenodiverse?
yeah, but it doesn't seem. It's still weird.
I mean,
man.
if you're talking like Michelangelo, Donatello, those.
Raphael,
No, he was. Well, oh wait, no,
weren't they all painters? The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
they were
Or something
all
like
famous
that?
painters. Yeah, they were all the Italian master painters, and I forget what the rat's name was.
So they go on to say here, the person who identifies this way says, the council felt safe to be all of me, they told the newspaper. We are a family of weirdos hoping to make access and care better for all Oregonians.
Yeah.
They added, there are many ways to feel other in a human world that have nothing to do with being delusional. So there you have it.
Yeah.
The T-Rex dream is still alive for those of you out there that...
Well, they're somehow probably like a distant cousin of each other, right?
It's reptilian, man. This person broke the ceiling, and if you want to go reptile, we thought it was funny in Step Brothers, but not anymore, man. You can go reptile.
Well, just, you say, okay, so number one, around the country, there's a shortage of mental health stuff. And that's, this was a mental health committee. I'm glad that they've got, 20 various consumers on this committee, trying to address issues. We need anybody and everybody that's going to do whatever is needed to try and get more healthcare, mental health providers, especially in rural areas. We're dealing so much now with the identity confusion issues that people are just struggling with. They don't feel like they meet whatever stereotype of of what their biology says. They have different feelings, and different issues there. And right now there's just so much like, all right, well, let's just go free with that and do whatever. And, look at it, say, these are human beings made in God's image. They're struggling. Something has, given them hurt and pain that has made them question all sorts of things, and they're just reaching out and grasping for like flat out just for identity, for acceptance, for something. And right now, with the way the world has been, you can gain all sorts of acceptance. You're not, we're technically, if you look at the world, we're not supposed to be criticizing this person because this is what they identify. This is their truth. But I think it's just a reminder. This person is a child of God, has been hurt and wounded. Probably is in support of the mental health care stuff because they've needed it and used those services throughout their life. And I can't speak against that. I've seen counselors throughout my life and battled depression, and so it's there's wounds there, and
absolutely.
And you just say, man, I'm grateful that this person is working to try and help healthcare access. I just pray, God, that you would be with this person and help her or him. I don't know what the biological gender was, just to feel your love and acceptance, God, man.
Do they happen to mention an age?
No, I saw a picture, and I mean, it looks like an adult, a younger adult, I would say. Yeah.
30s, 40s, I thought, from when I saw a picture. But, trying to live life, it looks like, and do those things. But it just makes you wonder, like, where are we at, Jake?
Well, it must be hard to, how do you address that, I suppose? If this person's all in, thinking that he or she is a turtle, a lot of these cases that you run into, I felt like this since I was super, super young. Yeah. Well, when was the first feeling of being a turtle? 4, 5? Is it more parents? Is it support for kid? I mean, there's a lot of things that gotta happen and take place for you to be, like you said, an adult. And now you've come to a conclusion, it sounds like.
Well, so here's the first thing I thought when I saw this I thought, well, it's a headline on, again, I think I said this before, but it's a headline on Fox News. I figured, this has got to be an exaggeration. And I think to some extent it probably is a little bit. I think even though none of it is or I should say all of it's weird and strange, and we're not used to this kind of thing, obviously. I think probably the truth lies somewhere on the side of what the Oregonian here is advertising or is writing, that this person is probably using this turtle pronoun as a way of raging against the system, so to speak, or
feels like some solidarity and feelings with things you might associate. Doesn't actually believe that.
I'd venture to guess doesn't actually believe I'm a turtle, is using this as a way to kind of grab attention, saying I don't adhere to the normal binary standard or whatever the language they're using, and this is their way of kind of bringing some attention to the issue. That's my first thought. I think should we solve the transgender trans species issue just once and for all right here on the Axe and Scalpel podcast?
Well,
historic. Can we just do that right now? Is that possible? Do you think that once we speak on this issue, that everybody will just say, "Hey, that's it. These guys solved it. It's good.
They got the formula."
That will probably happen after the Democratic Party hires you as their.
Well, that's what I'm kind of angling for, to help those guys out. So here's I'm gonna put a stamp then on this subject, since it's our duty as the Axe and Scalpel podcast. So I think you can live in a world where, despite somebody like this kind of using goofy language in promoting their own identity, or even the Democratic Party, or I don't even know if it's just the Democratic Party anymore, but anybody who is part of the transgender, trans species movement, so to speak, I think you can still respect those people as human beings.
Yeah.
And as Rick said, brought out from a biblical standpoint, recognizing that, they're made in the image of God. And like, I think I've brought it up before, this, the story I heard a guy preacher tell once about, thinking about the fact that, think of the worst jihadist terrorist in the world. At some point that guy or gal was a little toddler, running around behind their parents with no ideology at all, made in the image of God. Now, by no means am I comparing transgender people or trans species people to terrorists. That's not what I'm saying here at all.
Right.
But what I'm saying is that all human beings are made in the image of God, and
have inherent value.
And they have inherent value. And so I think you can respect that and not treat people like garbage, despite if you think what they're saying is crazy. Because I'm sure there's stuff that we say and we'll say in this podcast that other people with different ideologies are gonna think is crazy. But at the same time, I think you can also live in a world where you acknowledge that the earth is round, right? And that the sky is blue, and that there are males and females. And no matter how much you want to try to behave in a manner like that's not reality, it is reality. And
every cell in your body has these chromosomes in your genetics. I mean, you can take hormones, you can do these other things, you can say what you want to, but you still have that genetic makeup. And honestly, we know that you can pursue those endpoints, but you're trying to fill a hole in your soul and spirit. That's a God-shaped hole. It's you can fill it with this identity stuff. You can fill it with, I've tried to fill it with alcohol in the past. I've tried to fill it with food in the past. I mean, it's if like Jake, he does the whole furry thing. It's
I'm Greek. It's not actually just
He doesn't even know what I'm talking about. He doesn't even know what I'm talking about.
That's a great comeback by Jacob, though.
Let's bring this back. Okay, so this is, where are we coming from as Christians? All right, this is Genesis chapter 1, verse 26. After all of the other creation of the stars and the heavens and the earth, and God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, the birds of the heavens, the livestock, and over all the earth, over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. We're saying God makes us male and female. He does not make mistakes. If he were to make mistakes, that would make he's not God. It's so we believe that God made us who we are. It doesn't mean that you're going to feel exactly like the stereotypical man or woman. You might not be into all of those things. You might mean that you do struggle with, who am I? How do I feel? But ultimately, our job is to reach out lovingly to this person that we feel is drowning in the raging river, while having ourselves tethered to the shore, as opposed to what society wants us to do, is just jump in with them. Be there with them, feel their pain.
Well, so here, when I say, and I joke, we're going to solve it. So I'm kind of getting there, but maybe what I'm referring to is I'm going to solve it from a political standpoint, bring clarification here. As I said, maybe I'm angling for that head of the Democratic Party job, but here I have something, and maybe I hijacked this from somebody, this thought or this phrase, but so if I did, I apologize for it. But to explain it to everybody who can't understand politically, like why this is such a big deal to the right, or why it's such a big deal to the left. Like I hear people say, on talk radio or on the news, like, this is just such a small amount of people that deal with this. Why is this such a big issue? It's because it's what I call the rational litmus test. Okay. And what I mean there is, when people are looking at leaders or political figures, if that political, and I'm speaking, as we've talked about in the past, somebody that's voted both ways in the past, if I'm looking at a political leader and they tell me that somebody who is clearly a male or a boy is a girl, right? Despite however much you want to go through hormones or surgery, etc. If you tell me, now we can refer to that person as a, transgender male or transgender female, whatever, right? I'm fine with that. But when they get into the fact that, no, this is a woman, right? When it's a male and they say, no, this is a woman, somebody like me looks at you and says that person's not rational, right? They're either lying for the intent of pandering to some group, or they've lost it, because we know what reality is. When all of us look around, we know what reality is, and we can try to put whatever name or stamp or whatever we want on label or identity. But at the end of the day, we know, listen, biology is biology, right? You and I are both biology guys. There's males and there's females. And if you are a guy who wants to be transgender and be a female, hey, that's fine. But we all know what the root is here, right?
Yeah.
We all know what you were originally, and we all know what, the way God made you. And unfortunately, you can't change that. You can change the cover, maybe, and identify one way or another, but you can't sit here and tell me that there's no such thing as a woman. There's no such thing as a man. You can't change the verbiage to inseminated person like the governor in Wisconsin, or like we talked about before. So when you say that, people don't think you're rational. And that's where you lose on that issue.
Yeah. So, and even then, you're seeing in the LGBTQ movement, like, this is where some of their own people are starting to say, like, this is getting out of hand. Is on the transgender. Like, I mean, part of it is all this time. It's like, for how many hundreds of years were women fighting for rights, which should have been given a long time ago? Like, God, right there in that Genesis, male and female, we are equals, but human society has been good. But now so they fought for all these years for women's rights, women's sports, all of these things. And now all of a sudden there's a group coming in and like, hey, let's turn all of our girls into boys and let boys go dominate women's sports. And it's like, wait a second, and again, rational, that sort of thing. And the other issue I've seen brought up is, for all that time, what was the argument people made to justify homosexuality? Well, it's biology. We can't change biology. Well, then here comes a group that's saying, guess what? We can change biology.
Yeah.
And
one question I want to ask you guys, when God is brought up in this conversation, do you believe that it could be God being non-existent in one's life, or a rejection of God that makes them go in these directions? Which one do you think might be more prevalent?
Both. Yeah. I mean, I think it's both. And, there's, people who grow up, they've never been in church. They've never heard Genesis 1:27.
They might not actually have even negative attitudes about it because they just have no experience.
Yeah. So, but hey, here's the deal, though, is the Bible also says that we are all sinful people, right?
Yes,
the fall of Adam affected us all. So, I mean, if there's one thing, and I'm not trying to be politically correct here, I think I'm being biblical, is if there's one thing that is absolute certainty, is the guy or the gal that identifies as transgender is in no different boat than I am, man. I mean, I'm a sinner. I have screwed up more ways than I care to count. And thank God that Jesus Christ sacrificed himself for the rest of us, because, like I said, the person who identifies that way, or LGBTQ, any of that, we're all in the same boat here.
Yeah.
And, and maybe, the advantage that I have, or that you guys have had, that have spent some time in church, is we have that anchor to hold on to and kind of guide us through life that, maybe somebody else doesn't, but we are all sinful human beings. And that started with guy number one, Adam, right?
Speaking of which, since you asked it quite some time ago, it seems like now, but is there an animal in either one of your minds that you believe is admirable, strength, any sort of component you want to put in, that you would give up your human side of things? Is there an animal that you believe you would trade forms with?
Yes, saber-toothed tiger. I was always a history guy, so I feel like I would do better off in BC culture, right? Maybe eat a caveman or two and diet of strictly red meat. and I'd be muscular and with spectacular dental health.
Yeah, I mean,
Well done.
there's part of me that's like, uh, maybe one of those giant sloths from the no, it's like woolly mammoth. I'm trying to think of my
What's wrong with that? That really wasn't cool at all, Rick. Giant sloth is kind of stupid.
I know. I'm like, well, let's see something hairy that it's,
You could hang out with the turtle. Neither one did.
I'd still stick with, one of the big bears.
I think you had it at grizzly bear. I do. I think you had it at
like
grizzly
it.
bear. Don't go back now. Yeah. Well, fellas, we're going to move on to other headlines here, I think. So I had kind of a funny title for this week's headlines. I called it Turtles, Tariffs, and Astronauts. Tariffs. I think we got to talk tariffs because, man, this is like you look on Facebook and everybody is an expert on economics, right? I mean, they're arguing back and forth between Democrats and Republicans. All of a sudden, everybody is Adam Smith. And so, Axe and Scalpel, like I said, we got to look into issues at least surface level. And by all means, I am not an economist. I think I took one economics class in college. You guys ever take any economics?
No, I don't think I got an actual economics class in there, just a boatload of science.
So we're all college educated guys, though. Hopefully you guys haven't been portraying yourselves as economic geniuses in Facebook arguments.
Yeah.
But so I'd start with you guys. So, and I'd be curious how many people actually know this. What is a tariff?
Yeah. So
what is a tariff?
That'll be a good question of what is a tariff. Here's what I know. So a tariff is essentially a fee charged by one country against another country's imports. That money gets paid to the government. So if the U.S. imposes a tariff, the money goes to the U.S. government, and then they get to do what they want with it. But
keep going.
And so
we're hashing it out here because I think probably most American people are in the same boat as us. I've cheated. I've got the answer here, so to speak. And if we do have an economist that's listening, certainly I'd love to have an economist on as we as we go through all this stuff with Trump here in the next couple of months.
Our manufacturers pay tariffs to import to other countries because that's one of the prime ways that a country can make money that's not taxing their own people. However, then if the cost gets passed on to the consumer in the end, then it kind of is.
So how about you, Johnny? You have any idea what a tariff is?
For the most part, you hear about, 25%. So for the most part, let's just say if your product is $100, it's now $125.
Yeah.
That's in that additional $25, like Rick said, that goes to the government to try to defray. But like Rick also said, sometimes that tariff, that expense can fall onto the consumer, which I believe seems to be the biggest argument with people right now is businesses aren't going to lose money. So the consumers are supposed to spend more money.
So I'll elaborate for you guys and for whoever listens to this, because I think it's important to actually understand what these things are, what the consequences might be, and what in the heck anybody's talking about. So the reason I brought this up is I don't know if you guys caught last week. The press secretary, Carolyn Levitt, she had kind of a viral exchange with this guy from the AP. And he was kind of he's trying to put her on the spot and kind of trying to flex a little bit and act like a big timer. And so anyway, she's talking about tariffs on the stand and he gets his hand raised to ask a question. And basically he says to her, basically kind of asks a question about tariffs. And she responds that tariffs are a tax cut for the American people. And so he jumps on that right away because he probably has done a little bit of homework. He understands a little bit what a tariff is. And what, to Carolyn Levitt's credit, when she's saying that, she's not saying I don't think she was saying that's a literal definition of a tariff. But he starts to flex. He says, well, have you ever paid a tariff? I've paid a tariff. And a tariff is not a tax cut for the American people. A tariff is a tax on the American people. And so that generated a lot of controversy. And so I thought, man, it's worth, if people believe her or they believe him, they're kind of both wrong and they're kind of both correct. So I did a little digging here and I've done a little bit of economics. So tariffs kind of 101. And again, if there's an economist out here who could help us out on this, I'd love to have him on someday, but I think I've pretty much got it here. So what is a tariff? So a tariff is a fee paid on imported goods. So the fee is paid to the U.S. government by the person importing the good. and they pay the government through Customs and Border Protection. So it's a fee. So say, my business, I buy dog food from China, and I'm the one directly importing that through.
You don't buy American dog food here at this veterinary.
That's why I have so many patients. No, but they bring in the product, and if I'm the direct importer, the one importing it, I pay a fee to U.S. Customs and Border. That's the tariff, and then that goes into the tariff kitty.
You'll pass it on to the person manufacturing.
So when Trump's talking about the External Revenue Service, so that's what he's talking about, is that money generated that way. So Josh, I think his name is Josh Boak or Josh Doak from the AP. So he's kind of right. It's the importer paying it. Now, that importer is not always an American person. That can be a foreign company who is over here and is bringing in goods through our ports. So it's not necessarily an American. So when he says, oh, it's a tax on the Americans, well, he's not being 100% truthful there.
Pass the cost on.
But he is right. It's not like a tariff doesn't result in any kind of a direct tax cut, in my mind, to the American people. So a tariff is typically paid by the importer, and the importer is likely to be an American company, but it might not be. Now, so who are the biggest importers in America? So I looked this up, actually, and the biggest importers in America are like your big box stores. So I try to pull a list out of them here if I can. So in 2022, your biggest importers by tonnage were, as you could probably guess, Walmart, Target, Home Depot, the LG Group, which I looked up who the LG Group. So I looked up who the ownership of some of these companies are just to see if they're all American. The LG Group is Korean owned, for instance, but they're importing goods in the U.S. Lowe's, Dole Food, Ashley Furniture, Samsung America. Samsung, I know, is a Korean company. I'm not sure if there's American ownership there or not. But those are your biggest importers. And outside of like LG Group, I mentioned, who is owned by a Korean company, Walmart, Target, Home Depot, those are all stock traded companies, right? And so when this guy from the AP says, well, it's the American people paying a tax. Well, Walmart, Target, Home Depot, these are stock traded companies like BlackRock, for instance. Those are the ones with the most, quote unquote, ownership over these companies. So I don't think anybody's feeling terrible for BlackRock if they're having to pay a tariff, or at least their stockholders are. So Levitt calls it a tax cut. Well, what's then the benefit to the American people? Because this really isn't a tax cut in the way that she's saying it frankly, I guess, if you will. So what are the benefits? So why would Trump want to do this in the first place? So, if a foreign company is more expensive, companies might be more likely to buy U.S. made products. Real simple, right? If you're buying healthcare products, N95 masks from a Chinese company, but you have to pay a 25% tariff and it makes the American good cheaper, then companies are going to start shopping American and buying them American. So that's the benefit. Number two is we have a large number of serious trade deficits with other countries. And I had this written down somewhere. So what the heck is a trade deficit? Well, a trade deficit simply means that...
I thought that was just what you called the Chicago Bears quarterback situation for
like the last decade and a half, right? Well, you could say the same thing about the Vikings. But having a trade deficit, so Trump's brought up having trade deficits to Canada and Mexico, et cetera. And what that means is that, in relation to Canada or Mexico, is that they sell far more goods here, so that we bring in more Canadian goods than they bring in American goods. So why is that at a disadvantage? Well, because for American companies, if we're able to balance that out, and American companies can sell more goods into Mexico or Canada or wherever it is, that's what he's talking about. So that's why he's slapping on what he calls reciprocal tariffs, is that if the tariff is equal, maybe that might force them to the negotiating table here and start taking more of our goods. Because, what he talks about routinely is Canada affects us right here in Wisconsin. Canada's not taking our cheese and our milk, et cetera, at the rate that we're taking in other products for them. So he's trying to open up markets to Americans. And then the third thing would be, if a tax cut, if he utilizes this so-called External Revenue Service, well, then maybe you could have a tax cut indirectly, in the form that if we're bringing in a bunch of money by slapping tariffs on everybody else, maybe down the road that might mean a tax cut for the American people.
It's like, yeah. So, and then today there was a cabinet meeting I watched over lunch hour. They had the whole cabinet there and they're talking, and basically what the president said, and whether or not it's true, they were talking about since he came into office and announced the tariffs, all of these companies that are coming and now opening up and have announced that they're opening up factories, things to make things here, because if they can make it here, it might be cheaper for them to make it here with maybe more expensive U.S. labor than to make it with cheaper labor elsewhere and have to pay the tariff on it. And so, in that sense, if that is true, then that could create American jobs.
Yeah.
If we can get them to go to work.
So, what I said was kind of the bottom line here is both in this argument, the AP guy and then Carolyn Levitt, he's, like I said, he's trying to call her on the carpet. What I don't think what she truly meant is that Americans get a direct tax cut here by tariffs. But what she's saying is indirectly, there's going to be a benefit to Americans, or at least that's my read on it. And the whole point of all of this is it seems that Trump is trying to utilize this as a tool to help grow American business and the American economy. It's part of the pro-American view, the pro-American, style of leadership that he has. And so, the idea is that when tariffs are in place, it's going to force people to think American, to buy American, and to produce in America, right?
So I brought up I heard about this day, and I hadn't fully thought it through before, but I've heard of things throughout life about like NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, that's supposed to, like, by free trade, they mean they're trying to get rid of barriers in trade, trying to get rid of tariffs and things.
Right.
Those agreements have existed, but yet we were still being more highly tariffed compared by these other countries. And so,
or we were simply at a trade deficit. We were taking more of their goods than they were taking of ours.
Yeah, which, especially it's going to be like a snowball effect, right? Because we just aren't manufacturing because of all of these other factors, and so more products end up being made and everything. But so I heard the term today that we don't want free trade, we want fair trade.
Yeah.
And so it's trying to say, like,
and so to give a nugget though to the people who might listen to this and might say, well, it's just you're just speaking from Trump's perspective and it's not all, sunshine and berries here. Well, the fact of the matter is, if there is a tariff, somebody has to pay that, and they're going to. So the person bringing in the good has a couple choices in my mind. Is they're either going to have to raise the price of their good directly to the consumer, or they're going to have to cut other business expenses in some way, shape, or form. Maybe that means letting people go or downsizing their staff, et cetera. Or of course, you have the noble option that I'm sure not a lot of businessmen will take. And the noble option would be let it eat into my profits a little bit.
Profits, eat into salaries, that sort of thing.
And well, we do live in a capitalist society. So I'd get, I would acknowledge, of course, to the people that are saying this, I would have my doubts that every guy importing goods who gets slapped with the new tariff is going to do the noble thing and take a little less for himself. Yeah. And not pass on any of that expense, whether it's down the line in his human resources or down the line to his or her consumer.
And it gets like very specific. They're saying like there's certain products it'll be 20%, some like 100% or 150 or more. Like can be very specific.
Well, the thing that's always interesting about these sort of deals too is it actually gives the greedy an excuse to still be greedy, meaning they can say, well, what do you expect me to do with these tariffs and stuff? Now I have to. Yeah. And then it can be justified if they don't really make any adjustments for their own bottom lines and things of that nature. They already have a built-in excuse as to, hey, just look at the books. Well, they won't want you to look at the books, but they'll say, hey, look at the books. This is why I have to do this. And
maybe you'll see prices go up, but then eventually they back off the tariffs, but then the prices don't ever.
Isn't that weird? It's kind of odd.
But the part where I agree with or I like the idea of anyway. We'll see how much if prices really do get affected at all. I've heard some people say they don't think there's going to be much difference in prices at all, but it's what Trump's doing here is kind of the long play, right? It's the idea to produce more American, buy more American, and if American companies are successful, everybody becomes more successful, and our economy gets stronger. People get paid more. People have more resources. So we'll see if the long play plays out there.
And another thing about Trump, and one thing that whenever he says something that could be a tad bit incorrect or even way off, they have good ways of finding those examples. When he talks about, say, Germany, for example, just the automotive industry.
Yeah.
You got your Mercedes, I believe. Germans BMW, aren't they?
I think so.
I think so.
Yeah.
But he brings up those good examples of, if you were to go down the streets of Germany right now, you think you're seeing a bunch of Chevys?
Right.
Think you're seeing a couple Fords? And then he breaks down the tariff for our vehicles is like, say, 30%. We charge them virtually nothing. And that's why you're able to see the BMWs, the Benzos, all those nice German cars around here. But you go to other countries, you see photos of other countries. I don't know. Have you ever actually seen a Chevy Silverado on a nice, quaint street in Paris or London? Or I mean,
it's too wide for this.
No, okay, bad example.
Goes,
no dualies.
The sidewalk.
Yeah.
That's why they need those small ones. But I don't know.
Well,
have you guys ever really seen like a
I don't know if we see a nice,
rush hour
You know what?
traffic
Up here in the Northwoods, Renaults.
Renaults.
I know Pastor Todd said he had one.
Oh,
Not Pastor Todd, Dr. Todd.
Renaults. What are those again? Renault.
Some foreign car.
Little tiny.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm from Wisconsin, Rick. All I know is F-250s and Chevy 2500s.
And we're gonna take them right down your narrow country's blocks with no remorse.
All right.
Bring a dually even.
Well, we got to move on. Turtles, tariffs, and astronauts, fellas. So here's the other thing. We dissect the issues. Here was another controversial one last week, and that was Donald Trump and Elon Musk rescued the astronauts.
You know what was cool? Yeah. During last week's episode, we were recording right when they touched the old waters on the Atlantic, right? It was the Atlantic Ocean.
So what do you fellas think? You think that Elon Musk truly rescued our astronauts? Were they really?
Well, I mean, that company,
he was all CGI.
I think they had some supplies that had been brought up a couple of times to them and that sort of thing. And so I don't think they were in like resource distress or anything like that. Some of it you can say, okay. And I know that astronauts have been up there longer, but you're prepared for it. That's one thing. So, yeah, I mean, could maybe the Biden administration have done more? I don't know. I don't know the physics and the science and the weather. And, certainly it takes a ton. Well, there is specific time. I know at least you need certain.
Well read, Rick, or what?
Yeah, I mean, you need
weather. National Geographic.
Yeah, it's like the math. Like, are you going to miss and shoot them off over, into the rings of Saturn? I don't know, but I think there would have been plenty of opportunity. It's just a matter of resources, and do we know that did Musk have the resources with the equipment to do it? Certainly, NASA doesn't. To be able to make that kind of a run. So did he say?
Oh, you, Johnny, if you get stuck on the moon, are you going to call the Trump family? You're going to call Mar-a-Lago? You think that's the? Yeah.
If I'm stuck up there, I'm hoping he already knows.
Yeah.
But you brought it up. This might sound kind of naive, even, but I read too that they were able to bring supplies up to the astronauts. But I also read reports where that space station is full of supplies for a long, long period of time. If it was the first one where they brought supplies to the astronauts, how was it just the capsule and then the capsule detaches and then that's it? Or, I mean, is that true? Or what are these false reports? I'm not 100% sure.
So again, I try to do a little bit of digging into this and try to look at a couple sources. Of course, everything's partisan nowadays, but I try to find is straight down the middle of a report as I can on something. So of course, like all these things, the truth, it's black on one side, white on the other. It's usually in the gray, right? And so I did hear, I think it was on Fox, an former astronaut, get interviewed, and Fox was talking to him, of course, about the rescue mission, and the guy's like, "Okay, just calm down a bit here."
It was Mark Kelly, right?
I don't know and I don't think it was Kelly because he probably.
I saw him on one where he was like, "Come on, guys, stop this."
So yes, they are going to
the Democratic Center.
They are going to retrieve the astronauts here, but it wasn't like Battlestar Galactica where there was a hole in the side of the spaceship and they were running out of oxygen, right? And there was no more food and they had to get there within 6 weeks of space travel before everybody
cockroaches
before everybody got sucked out of the hole in the ship and never to be seen again as they rotated the Earth and their spacesuits desiccated and dying, right? Now, it was these guys went up there and basically what happened, it sounds like there was malfunction with their ship that was going to be, or their capsule that they were going to utilize for returning. And NASA did not feel comfortable sending them back in that, so they brought the capsule back, I guess, unmanned, which is crazy if that's the case. And then said, "Hey guys, looks like you're going to be stuck there for a while. We can't risk putting a human being back through the atmosphere." There was something along the lines, it was leaking helium or something like that.
Thrusters or something.
I hate it when my thruster leaks.
Yeah, I was waiting.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Please edit. I'll tell myself to edit that out.
But yeah, I think you should see a doctor about that. But
that better stay in.
So they couldn't get back, but they're on the International Space Station. They're not hurting for supplies. They're not starving to death. Like it's a rescue mission, but it's not. They're getting a ride home. And I don't know what the politics at play were. They did interview the astronauts themselves because the big claim by Elon Musk was that I approached the Biden administration and said, "Hey, I can help you speed this up." And basically the Biden administration said, "Thanks, but no thanks." And they interviewed the astronauts on this, and the astronauts basically said, I think Elon's telling the truth there, but they didn't know why those invitations would have been rebuffed. And if you read the publications from NASA themselves, NASA says, listen, we were on a timeline as it was for the end of February to get these guys back and get a new crew, because that was part of what was at play here is they had to get a new crew prepared to go up there. And it couldn't happen until February and then got delayed a little bit. Now, what the truth is, if Elon could have gotten somebody up there sooner and a crew ready to go sooner, nobody, I don't think that's really been published yet. But where the truth is, where Musk did play an important role from what I can see, is that SpaceX had the only other available, I think it was called the Dragon, the only other available capsule or ship or whatever the vessel was there that was capable of going up and getting those guys. So he was important in that fact that whether he could have done it sooner or not, they needed him and the technology from his company in order to go get these guys and bring them back. So as I said, there's a little bit of truth in it all.
Is it true that that Elon Musk removed 40% of the space station that was wasteful, fraud, and
I'm sure, there could have been studies on, maybe that's where the transgender mice study was.
I don't know, but important thing like this a lot of it kind of falls into it doesn't matter. They're home. They're back on the planet. They're getting back settled in. We've got more research going on. They're doing other research up there now. Hey man, I'm glad they're home safe. My favorite part of the splashdown was the dolphins. Do you see that? So,
I didn't see that.
As the boats were kind of pulling up to the space pod, there was a dolphin pod hanging out. Like, what's this in our water? And they're swimming around, like all the drone views of this thing. There's just all these dolphins like, hey, what's up, guys? I was like, that is just kind of cool. To them, it's, what's up? This is great.
Well, you've heard about what dolphins like to do with their extracurricular time.
No.
How risky is this program again?
You go all in, man.
Let's just say dolphins are I never knew dolphins are frisky. Oh. I think that's the best way I can put it without being too, and they're very, what's the word?
They're very
Cats are, I
They're
just can't think of the word.
Promiscuous?
That
virulent,
advantageous, open-minded. There we go.
open-minded.
Okay.
Dolphins are very open-mindedly frisky.
Oh, okay.
So they might have been seeing that space capsule as a
As a potential.
a mate.
Yeah.
A mate. There you go.
Yeah.
A mate.
Well,
Hey, the astronauts, I will say this, one of the cooler quotes that I did get from them when people were asking about the longevity of their time up there, the female did say, you got to remember, we are astronauts. We love to go up in space. And actually, when some of these projects take a little bit more time, you're normally kind of excited about that because, it's not like you can go to space every few weeks or anything like that. Once you're up there, she did say you like to stay up there as much as you can because it is a very enjoyable experience. But to be with only one other person in that small capacity that you have for basically 10 months, kudos to them. I mean, the books will be written about this, I got to presume, right? There's got to be somebody that says, this could be a 150-page Turner. I want to hear the female side. I want to hear the male side of it.
See it as
I mean, somebody might want to publish something like that. Go in depths.
Will Ferrell, Tina Fey comedy version.
I could dig something like that.
Up there, and then
I think it could be.
They normally hate each other. Like on Earth, they hate each other. They despise each other.
And they're forced.
But then there's the meet cute of them being cohabitated for all that time, having to deal with space toilet problems and
flip that over. It'd be better if they got along on Earth.
Put the toilet seat down. Which direction is down?
Well, fellas, with our current events show, we do have to wrap up at some point here. As much as I would like to stay on and talk porpoise eroticism with Johnny V, we do have to wrap up here. This
go on to a health
this week, and so I wanted to end with a little fun. And so I talked to you guys about this earlier, but we're just starting out with this whole thing. We just launched our first episodes last week. I thought, hey, you know what? These things, they're going to come with people who say good job. They're going to come with a little bit of criticism. And, we got a little bit already. So that's great. I say, let's have a little fun with it. Show a little bit of humility. I might call this segment Troll of the Week here. And so I'd like to read to you a couple of our finest commentary that we received this week and just get your response to it, man, because you know what? It's there's nothing like having a little fun when somebody makes fun of you. Wouldn't you guys agree?
That's the biggest form of flattery.
So first one comes here. Let's call him Big Al this week. And Big Al tells us, he says, oh man, because we got some religious content on there. We're all Christian gentlemen. He says, use logic and reason to stop the spread of these primitive superstitions called religions and the ignorance that they promote. Dr. Rapp, I look at you, a guy with 12 years of post-secondary education and a doctorate in medicine. And the first thing I think of is ignorance.
Yeah. Well, you can there you wouldn't be the first. So I get people frustrated, like you're talking, you believe in something you can't see, feel, touch, those sorts of things. That's the opinion I can understand where folks will come from that. Might not have been hugged by his mom enough, but throughout human history, why do humans routinely do this? Why does it? Because there's something there. I just, it takes more faith to believe that there is no God than to believe there's the sheer odds of one single protein forming on its own. I mean, it's impossible. And to sit there and say, oh, okay, so there's one of two possibilities. Either this all happened by complete chance,
yeah,
or an intelligent being created this highly complex system that we see.
And I think we could, as opposed to have fun, we could have a good episode on something like that, too. There's some people we could invite on and have some fun.
I would love to just have this, because I was like, would you say that to me in person, man?
No, but that's fun in it, right?
I know.
It's to generate people who will hate on us.
Yeah, and that's like, oh man, there's some wounds there. I'd like to dive into that and then refer you to a psychiatrist.
Well, Johnny, my
15 minutes in clinic.
My question for you, Johnny, is admission is the first step, man. Is it superstition or is it ignorance with you, my brother?
I like what Dr. Rip said. Well, what was it, Big Al? We're calling him Big Al.
Are you superstitious or just plain?
I'll give the guy credit, with some of those big words that he wanted to use in there. A few, sort of, couple 4, maybe even a 5-syllable
as somebody
word in there.
Has founded a grammar school. I appreciate his.
I'm pretty sure that was a direct quote from something Richard Dawkins has written.
Yeah, I'm sure, and probably is a Dawkins quote. But he used the grammar all right. It wasn't discombobulated or anything like that.
Proper capitalization.
So, as somebody who is,
it's kind of like
some significant time in education, I appreciate Big Al for his grammar here.
Not bad at all. But that's one of the things that actually could be messed up with me. I look forward to constructive criticism and destructive criticism.
Like destructive stuff.
Destructive stuff kind of gets you going. And the staple that I believe when you get into some of the conversations with some of these people, and I believe, didn't I touch on this maybe an episode or 2 ago, the parable of the donkey and the tiger?
I don't know.
Do you guys remember anything about this,
John? I don't know.
The parable
Where are
of
you
the
going
donkey?
with this? Is this Confucius? Or
does it take place in Tijuana?
Yeah, right. For a nickel. So
John's been to Tijuana. Yeah.
We have a lot to edit out of this.
This is, I suppose, how I can say it. This is how I've ended a lot of the social media conversations when it comes to politics.
Yeah.
This is my finisher. You've been there already. When you get to the point where you realize you're combatant, there's nothing you can say. There's nothing that you can do to change an opinion. You can't even get the person to admit anything. There's nothing that these guys are doing right. Nothing. So I say, thank you for that final post. Yeah. You have now allowed me to disconnect with you. You are the donkey. I am the tiger. Here is the parable of the donkey and the tiger. The donkey says to the tiger one day, "Oh, what a beautiful day. Man, this is a beautiful day. The grass is blue. The sky is green. This is a beautiful day." So the tiger just looks at the donkey and he says, "Yeah, it is a beautiful day, but grass is green. The sky is blue." Donkey's like, no. This gets into a heated debate. So heated, the donkey demands to take the tiger to go to the king of the jungle, the lion, and settle this debate.
Okay.
So the tiger says, "Let's go." Tiger gets up there. Donkey gets up there. Donkey says, "Hey, lion, this tiger is ruining my day. He's making me upset. I got anxiety." Lion says, "What's going on?" The donkey says, "Will you please tell the tiger that the grass is blue and that the sky is green?" And the lion says to the tiger, "Tiger, the grass is blue and the sky is green." Donkey goes nuts. "I told you, the all-knowing master proved me right. Now I demand that this tiger be punished for ruining my day, for heckling me, for making me think I'm stupid." Lion says, "You are correct. Tiger, you do need to be punished." Tells that tiger that he can't talk for 5 years. Donkey starts celebrating up and down, pointing at the tiger, talking all the smack. Donkey leaves. Tiger, like a good follower, is going to take its punishment. But before it walks away, it says to the lion, "Lion, why? You know that the grass is green and the sky is blue. Why am I getting punished?" He goes, "You're right. The sky is blue. The grass is green. You're getting punished because you wasted my time by bringing this ignorant donkey over here asking dumb questions that don't make sense. And the lesson here is, when you can't, don't argue, don't waste your time with people that aren't going to ever take reason, fact, or any other word you want to insert here. You're just wasting the time." And then all they're going to do is, if they're right, then that just proves how selfish they are. They don't care about the issues. They don't care about reality, what you could see, what truth is. They just care about being able to prove what they believe to be true. And I have found that when you just even put out there, donkey, tiger parable, you're the donkey, I'm the tiger. If they are worth anything, I found this out. They'll look that thing up. And it's even better when they do, because what you get after they look that thing up and then they realize what you subtly have called them and stuff like that, that opens up. That's when you could just let them rant, read and enjoy and know that you don't have to respond to them anymore.
Well,
you can be done with them.
You know what I tell you though?
Tiger and the donkey.
And in Big Al's defense, Big Al probably is going to disagree with you on who exactly is the tiger, who's the donkey, and who's the lion. But that's all right. And that would get to my point on the whole thing is, here's the story though, is everybody's got a religion. Absolutely. He calls religion superstition or ignorance. Everybody's got a religion. Even Big Al's got a religion. Your religion might be atheism. Your religion might be Gnosticism. But everybody's got a set of values that they have and that they follow, whether they want to admit it or not. And,
identity politics.
And a belief system that they adhere to. Climate change can be a religion, man.
They'll have even like their own
Doge can be a religion.
Liturgy and like the meetings you have to attend and all that stuff. Yeah.
And so, like I said, everybody's got a religion, and this fella, he's no different. He just doesn't want to admit it. And his religion, maybe it's science, and that's all right. We're science guys. Maybe we can talk science with Big Al sometime. But our last one here, I had to just mention, honorable mention goes to, we'll call him Easy E. He just simply says, "I'd rather be waterboarded."
Then what?
He didn't really leave a comparison there for us.
Something tells me he has never been waterboarded.
I don't know, but maybe he has, and some people are into that kind of thing.
And if we're really that bad, I'm sure we'll have more people waterboarding themselves, and we'll make appropriate adjustments to our behavior.
I think that should do it, fellas. Thank you very much for joining us for another exciting episode of the Axe and Scalpel podcast. Join us each and every Monday for new episodes. Find us on YouTube, Podbeam, Spotify, your favorite platform. Once again, for Dr. Jacob Smith, for Dr. Rick Rapp, and me, Johnny V, thank you so much.
And let us close with our blessing. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May he make his face to shine upon you. And may he bring you peace.